Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. It is Sarah Mislowski with Moving to Georgia. Very happy to be here with you tonight on this bitter, cold North Metro Atlanta evening. Y'all, that storm that we had this past week, it was just a whole bunch of nothing. Um, but I know for a lot of people across the country, it was not a whole bunch of nothing. So let me know where you're watching from, and I would love to say hello and let me know how you fared in the storm. I know a lot of people got a ton of snow, and it was just miserable for a lot of people. We still have a lot of ice here on the ground. I'm going to adjust my lighting here just a second. Let's see if that's a little bit better. There we go. Okay, y'all can see me a little bit better. So even though we did not get nearly as much snow as what they were anticipating, or ice rather, here in the Metro Atlanta area, it still has caused schools to be closed for 3 days now here in Gainesville, which is where I live. And mostly that is due to the ice that has the little bit of ice that we did was crippling because, well, it causes icy road conditions, and so we've had below freezing temperatures every single day, and that ice has not melted. And so because our county is so large and we have school buses that are traveling up in the northern part of the county where ice is still pretty bad, well, even though we got just a teeny tiny bit, schools have been closed for 3 days. So that's kind of the joke whenever they make online when they say that we just cancel schools at the tiniest little snowflake drop. It's very true. So we probably would have been out all week if we had gotten the amount of ice that they had originally said that we were going to get. So say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Hope you are good and safe. Obviously, if you're watching, you have some form of power. So welcome. But today we're going to be diving into what is happening in the Atlanta real estate market, specifically with sellers and what we're seeing with inventory. So there's some good news and bad news in what's happening here in the Metro Atlanta area. Sorry, just getting my behind the scenes stuff going. All right, so let's talk about a trend you've likely heard some buzz about, and that is the fact that home purchase cancellations are hitting record levels in December of 2025. And so specifically, we're going to talk about what that means for you as buyers and for sellers. And so I'm going to break down the data, the trends, and how you can make sense of what's happening on the ground in our market. So if you're watching live, drop your questions in the chat, and we're going to talk about those throughout the stream tonight. So here is the key fact. So Redfin, let me add this to the stage. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Let's see here. Let me pull up. Here's the big headline. And that is the fact that Redfin shows, sorry, still getting used to this new setup here. Redfin is showing that home buyers are canceling deals at the highest rate on records. So canceling, so pulling out, withdrawing from the contract, or sales are just not going through. And Redfin reported that in December of 2025, about 16.3% of U.S. homes purchases, those were canceled. And it was the highest rate for December since 2017. Okay, and here's the real deal here is that Atlanta has the highest rate of purchase cancellations in the entire nation, with about 22.5% of pending sales falling apart last month in December. So what does that mean? It means that 1 in 5 buyers in Atlanta backed out of deals in December. Now, this is talking about Metro Atlanta as a whole. And so this is not just specifically the city of Atlanta, but the Metro Atlanta area as a whole. And this was looking at metros all across the United States and how that was playing out. So if you want local stats, let me know, and I can pull those specifically for the Atlanta area and for some of the areas that we cover. So put that in the chat. If there's a particular town that you are wanting information on, we can take a look at that. So let's talk about why cancellations are rising. Well, there's a few reasons behind this. Number one, buyer leverage is up. And what that means is that what the buyer leverage means is that the data shows that sellers outnumber buyers by a large margin right now. And that's giving buyers a ton of options. So we have a big amount of inventory on the market right now, and there's more sellers than what we have of buyers. And so for buyers, that gives you a lot of leverage. And it also gives you more options and more negotiating power. The second thing that's kind of affecting this is mortgage rates and the affordability, and that's still playing a huge role into what's going on. So even though rates have come down just a little bit, many buyers are still shocked at those total monthly payments that they're seeing once you factor in homeowners insurance, property taxes, the PMI that you have to pay. So if we look at what mortgage rates are today, my screen is tiny. I cannot see that over here. Give me just a second while we get to the big screen. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to that. Mortgage rates are just above 6%, which is great. And so I have numbers up there on the screen for you to see that if you were to run a $500,000 purchase price with a down payment, roughly what that would be. And so one of the factors that I'm dealing with buyers that we're representing, especially first-time home buyers, is that whenever we look at what their goals are in terms of what they have for the amount of money to spend on a down payment and putting together, what that looks like with closing costs and all of those things, we're having a lot of conversations and with lenders that kind of end in like, hey, in order to make this 425 purchase price work, we have to get closing costs negotiated in this, and that buyers need closing costs. And so when we go to sellers right now, we're in a good position to negotiate those closing costs because it helps either buy down the interest rate or keep money in a buyer's pocket so that they can spend money on other things that they have to do, or help reduce that out-of-pocket cost when it comes to buying a house. And when this happens, buyers are in a good position because right now, because you have so much inventory on the market, you as a buyer, you're in a better position to take advantage of this. And so that is really factoring into what we're seeing play out in the market right now, is that because these buyers have more leverage against sellers, they're able to negotiate more. And so not only are sellers having to negotiate on price and face higher days on market, but they're also having to negotiate and expect that buyer is going to come along and negotiate closing costs as well. So another factor that is playing into this is that, like I just mentioned, the market is shifting from a seller's market to a balanced or a buyer's market. So in the Metro Atlanta area, we're still seeing inventory tick up and buyers are feeling less pressure to rush into contracts. So if we go back and we'll take a look at some data here, back into 2021, 2022, when days on market was minuscule and people were having to compete and make multiple offers on homes to get things under contract. Well, that's just not the case anymore. And so buyers have more options. And that means more walkaways, more buyers terminating on contracts if the terms don't add up. So if you're a buyer who's recently backed out of a contract or paused your search because of what's out there, let me know in the comments. I'd love to dig deeper into that. But if we go back to a couple of years ago, these cancellations are at an all-time high because inventory was so tight years ago, and you were just lucky to get a house under contract, much less go to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, this isn't working and this is broken. Can you fix that? Well, back in 2021, a seller would have laughed at you and said, no, I'm sorry, kick rocks. I'm going to go to one of these other 5 backup contracts that we have on the house that's not going to ask for anything. Well, today, as a buyer, they're walking into these contracts with a lot of leverage, and they're looking at homes. They're placing offers on these homes off of the fair market value. And so it's really hard right now for sellers because you're looking at maybe what your neighbor's house across the street sold for 2 years ago. You are remembering what happened in 2021 and 2022. and you're saying, hey, my house is just as good as that house that sold 2 years ago. Maybe I have more square footage. Why can I not command that exact same price? Well, market conditions were a lot different then. And if you are a seller who hasn't done anything to prepare your home for sale, well, you are behind. And that is likely one of the reasons why your home is not selling, because the buyers, well, they have a lot of choices right now. And so once they do negotiate the purchase price on the house, and then we get into the inspection phase, if you have a lot of things wrong with your house, or you have aging systems, really old HVAC furnaces, really old hot water heaters, the roof is on its last leg, plus there's electrical and plumbing issues. And if you as a seller are not going to come around and be negotiable again for the second time, well, that's what's leading to these buyers backing out of contracts. Another thing that I see sometimes of buyers backing out of contracts, not me personally, because I do my best to avoid this in preparing buyers, but it's the fact that they go under contract, they're getting their numbers back from their lender with things like property taxes, PMI, closing costs, all of that factored in. And that's the first time they've ever seen a loan estimate. They only just got their pre-approval and they went out house hunting. They did not stop to look at, what does that mean for me every single month? And once they see that initial numbers off of that house that they just went under contract on, they're looking at that and be like, okay, I'm approved for that, but I don't want to pay that every single month. That's crazy. And then they're like, whoa, let's terminate, let's back out. I don't want to move forward with this purchase. And so it's why it's so critical for buyers right now to make sure that you're working with a lender that provides you that loan estimate way before you ever go under contract on a house. So ideally, whenever you first get pre-approved, you want to have a lender work numbers at that pre-approval price, at what you think you're house hunting for, to make sure that that translates into actual numbers that you feel comfortable with every single month. And have it be at a number that you're comfortable with for the next 2 years or so that it's a happy thing whenever you're able to refinance into a lower rate and get a lower payment. And it's at a payment that you're comfortable with in case that doesn't happen for the next 2 years. So if you're joining us watching, welcome. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. If you have any questions, I would love to answer those. And if you are a buyer or a seller who's had an experience with a contract that you've backed out of, or maybe had a family or friend, let me know what the circumstances were in the comments, and let's dig into that. So another reason or kind of thing of how this impacts Metro Atlanta buyers, and how I would summarize kind of like the local impact, is that it's giving buyers more negotiating power. So sellers, you're going to face more contingencies. You're going to have to be more flexible, and you need to make sure that you're prepared for the inspection and the appraisal process when it comes that way. Obviously, there's going to be way fewer bidding wars than what we saw a few years ago. And so that's good if you are a buyer and you're wanting time and space and that chance to kind of really know what you're getting into, which who doesn't want that, right? That's definitely very, very important. So another impact that this has is that inspection and appraisal issues, well, they matter again. We've talked about this. So buyers, they're definitely not waiving protections like they did during the frenzy. And they're walking away if those concerns pop up. Just like I said, if there's major things and the seller's not willing to be negotiable, buyers are walking away. So if you are a buyer thinking about making an offer soon, ask yourself questions now about what are some of the repairs that you're willing to deal with. And if you're a seller, make sure that you're asking yourself, really honestly evaluating the status of your home and compare it to other homes that are on the market through an objective buyer's eye. Look at the cosmetic condition of your house. Look at what a first-time home buyer might be walking into your home and what they're willing to do or would have to do to your home right away. And when I say right away, obviously paint colors. You might be a seller and say, hey, my home is livable. It's great. All my systems are in great condition. Who cares if my walls are red and my kitchen countertops haven't been updated since I bought the home in 1996? Well, buyers care. And right now, they're comparing your home that you haven't touched to other homes that are on the market that maybe have been updated. So really evaluate and take a look at other homes that are for sale in your same price point and see what other options are out there for buyers and look at it through that lens. So if you're selling or thinking about listings, you're just know that you're going to have more canceled contracts than there have been in recent years. So it's so important that you continue to market the house even after it's under contract. And so sometimes that means still putting up with showings. And on the flip side, if you're a buyer right now and you are maybe you've fallen in love with the house and you see that it just went under contract or it's in that active under contract status, I would still encourage you to go see that home and consider being a backup offer. If we go back to that Redfin article that said 1 in every 5 Metro Atlanta homes, was that the graphic? Sorry. It's so tiny, but I think it is. That 1 in every 5 Atlanta homes have fallen out of contract. Well, that means that you have a 22% chance of being in a great position to get that house because the buyer currently under contract, they may not know the monthly payment, and they may get scared, or they may be, all kinds of things are happening, right? And so we just really want to make sure that you're not selling yourself short and making sure that you're in a backup offer position when you can. So if you have questions about that or curious about how that works, let me know in the comments. That would be great, and we can kind of dig into that a little bit more. So just know as a seller, you might have more fall through. And it's so important. If you're a seller right now, you want to price it right from the start. We're going to take a look at some data and stats for the local area, for the towns that a lot of my buyers are looking into, and a lot of sellers that I'm helping right now, of how many price corrections are taking place in the market right now. It's almost 20-30% of the homes in our area are going through price corrections. And so overpriced homes, they get buyers to overpriced homes really just waste a lot of time, right? It helps sell your neighbor's house that's up for sale. Overpriced homes cause you to miss out on buyers who otherwise would have bought your house or been super interested in it. And so at that point, you're just sitting days on the market waiting for new buyers to enter the market. Because remember, there are way more sellers on the market right now than there are actual buyers out there looking for houses. We're going to get into some more stats on that and take a look at that. If you're a seller right now, don't ignore inspection items. So buyers are using the inspection contingencies more than they were during the pandemic. And, sales are still happening, but deals are still less certain than they were in the last few years. So we really want to make sure that we're preparing your home for the market and that you're getting it in great condition and making sure that all of those big ticket items are not going to be an issue. So if you're a seller watching this, have questions, let me know, drop those in the comments. So what we do know is that Atlanta cancellations are higher than ever and higher than anywhere in the entire nation. So 22% of homes are falling through. And that reflects choices for buyers and caution in how people are proceeding. And it also reflects affordability stress. So buyers are pulling out when they crunch those stats or they get that inspection report back and they're like, I'm not dealing with these problems on top of the price that I'm having to pay for the house. So the bottom line here that you need to know is that this is not a crash signal, but it is a shift in the market. And we've been in this shift for the last 12 months, 18 months. And what it means is it's a lot of opportunity. So if you're a buyer watching this, well, it means that there's a strong chance that you're not going to have to pay full price for a house. As someone that's helped buyers over the past 18 months, I can think of one buyer that has had to pay full price for a house. And that was a home because it was in great condition. It was staged well, move-in ready. It was a great house and there was strong competition for that house. Otherwise, though, buyers are in a great position to negotiate. And the shift means opportunities if you know how to act. So if you're thinking about buying or selling right now in the Metro Atlanta area, don't overthink the headlines. Focus on your actual situation, the numbers, your goals. And if you have questions specifically about that, drop them in the comments so we can dig into it. And let me know where you're watching from. I would love to know that. So let's see here. Let's dig into some actual local numbers. Let's get this to the stage. And I am going to have to work on my skills over here because I can't see what y'all can see. So give me just a second. Okay. So this was interesting going back to that Redfin article about how Metro Atlanta leads the nation in cancellations. San Antonio was right behind Atlanta with 20% of homes falling through. Jacksonville, 20% as well. Cleveland, Ohio, and then Tampa and Orlando just behind that. And so if we compare this to like this December compared to last December of how many contracts fell through, well, you see that last year 18% fell through last December 2024. So we've been on this kind of roller coaster of a ride for a while of homes sales falling through. And so what that means as a buyer, again, is that if you had your heart set on a house, don't lose hope, because there's still, opportunity that house may come back on the market. It hasn't really changed a whole lot between December 2024 when we look at December 2025. So going between 18% to 22%. So not a ton of movement there, but it's still surprising that we are leading the nation. If you have any questions about making a move, let me know in the comments, or if you have questions about the housing market and what we're seeing right now, drop those in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say and your thoughts on all of this. All right, so let's dig into some local numbers. So I really like to look at areas that we do a lot of business in. And so this was looking at the Beaufort zip code of 30518, specifically inventory growth. And what this means is year over year, how much has the inventory grown compared to this time period last year? So we're looking at the end of December. That's what each of these data points are. And so Beaufort, the 30518 zip code, has 53% more inventory this is not year over year. It's 53% more inventory than what they normally have, than kind of like what the baseline is for this area, or what a balanced market is in this area. And so that's a huge surge in inventory. So and what that really means, let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so what that really means is that the homes for sale year over year is up 62%, meaning that there's 62% more homes available for you to look at than what there were at this point last year. And so you can kind of see that the inventory fluctuations have changed a little bit. You can definitely see where we were at with COVID time periods there in 2020, 2021. Hardly any homes out there for sale, or less homes for sale than normal. And that's just because homes were selling so fast. All right. If we look at coming, and so specifically, this is just the zip code of, no, I take this back. I should have taken that out. This is the actual, all of Forsyth County. There's 24% more homes for sale than what is normal in this market this time this year. And then if we look at sales year over year, that is, sorry, I want to make sure that we're on the right one. I got to work on my setup, y'all. This is not working out very well. So I appreciate you sticking with me and taking a look at this. Okay, so that says we're on slide 6, which would be Alpharetta. Yes. Okay. Even areas like Alpharetta, inventory there is growing almost 30%, 36% more inventory year over year. All right, now we're on the next slide. I didn't rearrange my slides. That's why. Y'all, this takes a lot of prep to get all this going, and it's a lot harder than what it seems. Coming inventory year over year, 24% more homes on the market. So let's jump down and take a look at Gainesville. So I pulled, for this one, I pulled, oh, okay. No, that's still Alpharetta. All right, here we go. Hall County inventory growth, 30% more homes for sale. So all of this just kind of echoes exactly what that Redfin article stated, which is there's just a lot more houses out there for sale. And so specifically, let's take a look at that Redfin article. There's another one. We have an article for that. So let's see here. Let's share this tab. Hold on. We're getting there. Oh. Here we go. Okay. Home sellers outnumber buyers by a record margin, upping buyers' bargaining power. So it's the strongest buyer's market on record. And so this is great news if we're a buyer, right? We heard this echoed by the cancellations. Buyers, you have a lot of power right now, which is a great place to be in because we were not saying this a couple of years ago. The number of home buyers in market falls to record low. And all of this for all the reasons, right? Things just feel very expensive right now. They are very expensive right now. But historically, interest rates are still relatively low compared to historic norms. So if we look at this map of the United States, you can see here in Atlanta that Atlanta has 80% more sellers than buyers. Now, remember, this is taking all of Metro Atlanta and Atlanta proper as a whole and putting all of this data together. Obviously, if we looked at the numbers that we just saw in Gainesville coming, Alpharetta area, Buford, obviously there's a lot more homes for sale compared to last year. So inventory is up, which indicates that we have more sellers than we have buyers because inventory is going up, but there's not enough buyers to match that. Unfortunately, I don't have data to kind of figure out how many buyers there are out there in the market to replicate this data locally, but those things go hand in hand, right? They do. And so if we look at this, Redfin is saying that, that Atlanta has almost 21,000 buyers actively out there in the market. And in December, we had 38,000 sellers, which is a difference of 81% more sellers than buyers. So I'm curious if you're watching, joining us on the live stream tonight, if you are currently in the market, buyer or seller, let me know. How are things going for you? What are you seeing out there? So those are all good things to know, and would love to say hello and see where you're watching from. All right. So this is all really good news. If you're a buyer, if you are a seller, there's only so much you can control, right? And if you are in the market and you need to sell your house, we want to make sure that it is in the best possible condition that it can be. We want to make sure that it's as updated as it can be to an extent relative to your competition and what's going on out there. Here we go. Alex is joining us from Lawrenceville. Thank you. Lawrenceville is growing so much. The downtown area, so cute. Y'all are getting lots and lots of great restaurants out that way and a lot of growth happening. Went out there for the Christmas market, the German Christmas market. So that was in Midtown Atlanta or somewhere in Atlanta, Buckhead, Midtown. They moved it out to Lawrenceville because thinking that there would be more space, can accommodate more people. It was still jam-packed. So we definitely need a way better crinkle. What do they call it? Y'all know what I'm trying to say, right? The German markets that are so cute with all the great foods and little gift shops. Those are cute. Patrick's joining us from Buford. Thanks for joining. Thank you. Let me know if you'll have any questions or anything that's on your mind that you want to share. So if you're a seller, we really want to make sure that your home is as prepared as it can be, or price it accordingly. So if your home is not stacking up to the competition of what's currently out there and the condition of other homes that are out there, well, we've got to be priced lower than those other homes that are out there in the market. Alex says, can't wait for the Lawrence Hotel to be finished. And the Christmas Festival had 400,000 visitors. Yes, it was crazy. It was like wall to wall, could not get to the vendor to get food. It all smelled so great though. So hopefully they'll expand the area a little bit more next year to host and hold a lot more people. That would be great. There's a lot of growth and development happening here in the Metro Atlanta area. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I think I have a cool new button that I can put up here for y'all. Look, look at that. Subscribe. Where? Oh, over here. No, over here. There we go. All right. Click or scan that QR code. So if you're watching from your phone or watching on your TV, use your phone, scan that QR code. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button. We put out videos every single week about what's happening here in the Metro Atlanta area, showing off all the towns, everything that you need to know. And that will keep you updated every single week that we put out a new video. This past Monday, we just put out a video on all the great new projects that are coming to Metro Atlanta in 2026. So make sure that you watch that. One of the projects that I'm most excited about is the Medley, which is opening up in Johns Creek. This is going to be kind of like a live, work, play shopping center, town center for Johns Creek. And if you know anything about that area, it has great neighborhoods, great schools, great location, but you've got to drive to other nearby towns like Alpharetta for shopping. And there's just not really anything there that serves as a city hub. And the reason for that is because, well, Johns Creek is a town that was recently developed. And so it didn't have a traditional town center to build around because it was a newly formed city. So they are building that, which is going to be really, really great. We've got Stephanie from Marshall, Virginia. Shout out. Thank you for joining us. And we have Joe watching from Melbourne, Florida. So you definitely did not have to deal with any snow or ice down there in Melbourne, but I think the bomb cyclone is coming your way this week and you might have some bad weather or at least very cold weather. Let me know if you're going to be able to stay warm down there, Joe. If you're thinking about making a move to Georgia, let me tell you, we have helped a ton of people relocate from Florida. And they all say, oh my gosh, I wish we would have done this sooner. We love it here. So if you're considering making a move, let me know because I can connect you with some other Floridians who have made that move and have been very, very happy. So let's think. Some other projects that are on the horizon for 2026 is the Gathering in South Forsyth. So Forsyth coming. The Gathering is an arena with an outdoor shopping center, retail, apartments, and they're hoping that by building that arena, that they're going to be able to attract an NHL team here to Georgia once again. And so this would be the third time that we've had an NHL team. And there's a lot of skepticism around this. Now, this isn't something that the NHL has said, yes, we're looking for, actively seeking for another metro city to host an NHL team. They haven't said that at all. But there's been a lot of talks with the NHL. The Gathering itself has moved forward with approvals and all that type of stuff. But we're all still on pins and needles trying to figure out if this NHL thing is actually going to happen. There's a lot of skepticism from my part. It seems like a far-fetched idea. However, there's a lot of people behind this to see if it actually comes to fruition, and they're working really hard on it. So we are going to keep our fingers, toes crossed. I think it'll be kind of an exciting thing to happen. So not only would that arena host the NHL team, but they would also attract concerts and other types of things that happen inside arenas. So I think that would be really, really cool to have something like that close by. Not only is the Gathering trying to attract that NHL team, but there's also some developers behind North Point Mall, which is down south of Alpharetta. They too are trying to attract an NHL team. I guess it would be the same NHL fictional team that would possibly be coming to the Atlanta area. And they have developed plans and proposals for a space down there to redevelop that area to host an arena and bring in an NHL team. So it's kind of like the battle of the two 20-minute away places to see who can lure an NHL team. And meanwhile, the NHL is saying, like, y'all, we haven't even said that we want to come, but yet here are two places really wanting them to come. James says that he is loving Suwanee, Georgia. That is a great, great area. Suwanee Town Center is such a joy to go to. It's the city hub for Suwanee, with lots of great restaurants and little cute boutiques and a great huge lawn there that they host all kinds of festivals. And they recently opened up another addition to that Suwanee Town Center area with a huge park just across the street with more green space and this really, really cool pedestrian bridge that's really neat over there with a really cool kids park. So thanks for watching from Suwanee. Definitely a really fantastic area. So if you have any questions about the housing market or have any questions about making a move, let me know. Have any thoughts about things that are happening and coming up here in the Metro Atlanta area, I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts there on those. One headline that popped up, I don't have it to pull up. It just happened yesterday. A lawmaker here in Georgia is proposing that Sawney Mountain, which is a cute little mountain in Cumming, they're proposing that be renamed as Trump Mountain to honor President Trump. So he made a campaign stop here back in 2024 in Forsyth County. And so that will be interesting to see how that gets received and what the public reception is. Haven't done the research on it yet, but I'm quite certain that Sawney Mountain was named probably from the Indians that inhabited that area. So a little interesting to rename it from a historical name of indigenous people to Trump, but we'll see. So if you're local and have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. But that one definitely made me go, okay, well let's see. But I did see another headline come across my email today that said that a lot of people were outraged by that, which I can see that as well. All right, Alex says, will interest rates finally go down this year? I need a HELOC to remodel. Interest rates are going to come down slightly. They were predicting that they would land around low sixes, maybe high fives. That was what all the models or economists from the big data firms were predicting for this year. And definitely look into that. HELOCs are always a little bit of a higher interest rate. So I do anticipate, though, that you'll be in a very good position to refinance into next year. Look into, and all that kind of depends on interest rates. So, and depending upon when you bought, because there's a time period back in 2025 or maybe it was late 2024 where interest rates were like at 7%. So if you have a 7% interest rate, for sure, you definitely need to be looking into refinancing. And I have some really great mortgage lenders that I can connect you with that they can give you way better advice when it comes to the refinance on that side. But you could even do what's called a cash out refinance or kind of roll that into the actual refinance if that's something that's coming up soon. But interesting thing about a HELOC, though, is that you only pay interest on the actual portion that you borrow while you have it, not the actual principal and interest until a certain time. And then, you can pay it back. So it makes it a little bit easier to pull that money when you need it. Obviously, talk to a lender your local bank. They can give you way greater advice on that than I can. But when it comes to mortgage rates, we're not really anticipating very much of a change at all this year. Now, what's unknown about this is that in May, the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, his term ends. Trump is going to put somebody new in there. And we all know that that new person is definitely going to be someone that is in agreement and alignment with President Trump's economic forecast and what he wants to see happen with interest rates, which he's put a lot of current pressure on the current Fed chair to bring down the Fed rate, which it doesn't always go hand in hand with mortgage rates, but a lot of times it does. And so that's kind of like the unknown here is what's going to happen with that and how that might play out with mortgage rates. So stay tuned. We'll know more, I think, in the next few months. However, I can say that boots on the ground here, I've seen market activity pick up here within the past couple of weeks, which is a great thing. Things were a little slow, a little dead for the most part in November, December. And so if you're a seller thinking about selling, just know that the outlook and what I'm hearing from other agents on the ground is that market activity is definitely picking up. Alex, what's your opinion on being able to use 401k money for down payments on home buys? I think anything that we can do to make things more affordable is great. And if there was a tax-free way to do this where you're not penalized, which obviously that's got to be the proposal there, would be great. My cautious side of me would say to make sure that you're not taking that 401k investment out of future retirement and then putting it into a house that is a money pit, right? I would want you to be very conservative with that money because essentially you're kind of robbing from your retirement, putting it into real estate and hoping that that outperforms the market, which historically, if you look back, real estate has always been a very good investment in terms of return on investment, but we just want to make sure that you're not buying a money pit up front, which no one wants to get a money pit up front, right? So we always want to avoid that. Stephanie, which are the best metro area counties in terms of having the lowest property tax rates while still having good schools and safe communities? That is such a great question. And my favorite for this is going to be Forsyth County. So Forsyth County, which is where Cumming is, a little bit of a trade-off, right? Because Forsyth County has a little bit higher median sales price than, let's say, Gainesville, or if you look at Flowery Branch, which is on the other side of Lake Lanier. However, property taxes, Forsyth County has the area's lowest effective property tax rate. It's right around 0.89% of the purchase price. If you are a senior, which I don't think you are because you're talking about having good schools, but if you're a senior, they have generous senior homestead exemptions. You get 100% exemption from the school portion of the property tax starting at age 65, which is a huge savings. So here in Georgia, about 50 to 60% of your entire property tax bill is allocated to the schools, and it goes directly towards a school. So when you're age 65 in Forsyth County, all of that gets taken off of your property tax bill, regardless of income. It's only based on your age, and it only has to be based off of just one person in the household who's on the deed turning 65. So hint, hint, if you are, let's say, living in a multi-generational house and grandma or your mom is coming with you and they're going to be 65, you want to make sure that their name is on the deed so that you can save on property taxes. So hands down, Forsyth County, great school system. Almost all the schools there have a 8, 9, 10 rating on greatschools.org. The challenge with Forsyth County is that it's growing quite a bit. So if you're looking for someplace peaceful and quiet, you're probably not going to have that in the next 10 years. There's some pockets of Forsyth right now up in the northern part where you can find that. But you can still get a really good house, good house. There's a lot of good options starting at around 450 there. But if you're looking for something like a little bit more of an entry level price point or below 450, but still looking for those good schools, I would look over into Loganville or Grayson of Gwinnett County. Those schools have really good ratings. You get more space out there, a little bit of a slower pace of life, but the property taxes there are going to be a little bit expensive. But maybe depending upon where you're coming from, that trade-off might not be that great, or that big of a deal. I had a buyer recently moving from the suburbs of Chicago, and they were paying, almost $1,000 a month in property taxes. And here it's like $400 a month, which is where they moved. And so, a swing from $400 a month to $450 a month, he was like, I don't care. That doesn't bother me at all. Because it's still such a greater savings than what we have been paying. So, all around, Forsyth County gives you the best bang for your buck for tax rate and good schools. Hall County, Gainesville, Flowery Branch, still a huge fan of Hall County. Is just slightly higher than Forsyth County. If you look at the school ratings, though, Hall County doesn't have the same ratings as what you're going to find over in Forsyth County. However, there's still some really great schools in Gainesville, and there's Gainesville, Flowery Branch. There's a lot of great, fantastic moms groups, or why are they always moms groups? We all know why, but there's a lot of great groups for parents on Facebook where you can go and kind of get some insider information and ask there, so that you're not just taking my word for it. And I always encourage parents to not just look at greatschools.org, because you're probably missing out on some really good options. But those are the two areas that I would look at if I were you. Great question, and thanks for asking. What other questions do you have? Let me know. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about the housing market. If you're not following me on Instagram, why not? I post I like to say great content all the time, every single day, about things that are happening in our area, more so about restaurants that are opening, businesses, new developments, showing off cool houses. So if you're thinking about making a move to the Metro Atlanta area, or if you're a local here, go ahead and follow me on there so that you can stay up to date. We can get to know each other a little bit better. And we have a lot of fun over on Instagram, showing off all the great little areas that we live in. Y'all, one of the areas that we just showed off, or areas, is a restaurant just opened up here in downtown Gainesville called Batty's Burgers. They have a location over in Athens. So they started in Athens. I think they have 2 locations, and they just opened this one up here, Gainesville, just last week. I've already been twice. It is smash burgers, the best French fries. I just discovered today that they're deep fried in beef tallow. They're so crunchy and so good. They serve them with this great little burger sauce called Batty sauce. So the only thing on their menu, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, smash burgers, just with pickles and onions and the sauce. French fries, either plain or Cajun fries. And y'all, they have pudding on their menu. So like banana pudding, cookies and cream pudding, and like a pudding of the month flavor. So good. They should pay me, but they don't. But we featured their restaurant and showed off all their great food because it is so good. And the best part, the prices, so cheap. Combos ranging from like $9 to a triple burger for $13 with fries and a drink. You can't even go to Culver's and get that, or for sure you can't go to Five Guys, right? But hands down, so good. So let me know if you are in town or nearby in the area and you go try that, because if you come here locally and you say, hey, we're thinking about buying a house in Gainesville, we'd love to meet up with you, I'm going to say, let's go meet up at Batty's because it's so good. So, oh, we have someone from Kansas City, the Missouri side. Is that not that? Well, for someone that's not native to Kansas City area, it's always confusing. I have a really great agent friend in Kansas City, Kyle Talbot. He does the KC scene. I don't know if you're familiar with his work on Instagram, or he also has a really great YouTube channel. So he's fantastic. So thinking about moving, he's going to be a great, fantastic agent to help you move. So thanks for joining us over here and learning a little bit more. I appreciate it. All right, y'all, we've got one more week of really cold weather. Thankfully, the cold weather that's coming here in the Metro Atlanta area on Saturday looks like it's going to bring us some snow. I always get excited for our 1 day of snow every year. We just had ice this week. Now we're going to get snow. And then after this, it looks like next week we're back in the 60s. So super excited to get my fix of snow and then back into our normal-ish, winter weather. So thank you so much for joining us tonight on the live stream. If you have any questions about making a move, reach out to me. I would love to get your questions answered. And of course, if you're thinking about moving here or selling here in the Metro Atlanta area, let me know. You can reach out to me. My contact information is directly below this video in the description, or you can come find me over on Instagram. Reach out to me there. Thank you for being here. You can subscribe to our channel, please. You can click that QR code right there. And if you're watching on a TV and need to click and subscribe from a phone, that's how you can do it. So thanks for being here. Every new videos, every single Monday. Thanks, y'all. And I will see you next Wednesday back here on the live stream. See y'all next week.